Hey folks, hope you guys are having a good, I guess it's Saturday now. Hope you guys are having a good one. Let's hop into it. We'll chat about writing, talk about music a little bit, kind of what's going on. You can get this music at zulaonline.bandcamp.com. In fact, I'll link it. Got a lot of stuff on my mind for like what the next album is going to be like. I just called it Prophets of Doom because I thought it was fun. Next album, I'm probably going to do things that are a little more, I don't know, yeah, more doomy. We'll have things that are a little more esoteric. We'll put it that way, a little more esoteric. So, more like dungeon synth, doom. Stuff that really sounds like, I mean, I shouldn't say sounds like, stuff that's inspired by a lot of the things that I used to listen to that were basically made by like one or a limited number of people in their garage or, you know, in their bedroom with sequencers and tape recorders and stuff. You know, a lot of those Burzum albums from the 90s, after Var got locked up especially, were basically just done by him. And he did a lot of stuff after he got out that was like with garage. He made a whole album with GarageBand, and it was actually pretty cool. So yeah, stuff that's more along those lines versus just like this stuff that we're, you know, that we have going on right here. There's a lot going on here, but you know, it's a lot of clean. This album, the album Return, was a lot of clean rock. And the first album, Memories Adrift, was a lot more just totally eclectic. I wanted to make a more guitar-driven album. That was Return. So this next one's going to be pretty guitar-driven, but I'm going to have a lot more, I don't know, more stuff in it, I guess. More stuff in it. Newest book, Demon Ex Machina. You can actually read this for free. Just hop on my mailing list, dvspress.com/free-book. There it is. Even if you get it wrong, it ends up like redirecting you. That's beautiful. I didn't program that. Kind of interesting thing. All of the guitars are standard tuned on Return. I don't have any like alternate tunings, whereas the first album, Memories Adrift, had tons of alternate tunings. I used like 8-string guitars. I used all kinds of weird things on that album. So I'll probably do more, I guess, more out there stuff for this next one as well. A little more Doom inspired, a little more inspired by like later Dark Throne as far as the stuff I've been coming up with. Turn that down. Let it play out. So anyway, yeah, you can grab that. Interesting topic came up this week. A couple interesting topics. So number one, let's talk about writing for an audience. Okay? What does that mean? And what does it mean to be a professional? So a professional in any endeavor, like we've made kind of amateur a bad word. And I talk about this in the creativity manual. I'm like, don't call yourself an amateur. Don't have like an amateur mindset. The amateur mindset is basically like, I don't know, I'm just going to do things and we're going to see what happens. Maybe I'll make money, you know. I'm not good. So the amateur mindset usually starts from a place of like, I'm not good at what I do versus I'm not doing this like for financial gain or for my profession. Right? That's to me the difference between an amateur and a professional in a like literal meanings of the word. An auteur, right? You're really just doing it for you, right? I hate to call things hobbies because to me hobbies are things like Warhammer, like painting minis or doing D&D or playing video games or something. So I don't consider anything that I do a hobby. Like that's just a different mode. So yeah, writing to an audience and being a professional. So being a professional really means that you are making a product that other people want to buy, that you're doing it with the intent, at least, to generate income and make a living with what you're doing. So like a professional plumber, right? That's his business. He goes and fixes people's plumbing or installs plumbing in new houses or whatever he happens to do in order to do that. We don't really think very much of amateur plumbers. Like most professions, we don't ever think of someone being an amateur, but we think of it with art because we have to think about what an artist does as a professional. Consider what a professional artist did in the 19th century. In the 19th century, the way most artists made their money was by working for other people. They either worked on commission or they did things like portraits. And you can find fabulous, beautiful portraits from the 19th century and on back, even made by people of fairly humble means. You did not need to be extremely rich to have portraits done. They would draw portraits, even tiny little locket-sized portraits. There were artists that were so good at that. And they used many tools in order to do those things. A lot of times people don't realize, they think the artists of yore were just better trained than modern artists. And that might be true to an extent, depending on the way art school works. But rather, they developed tools and techniques that were directed towards their market, which was people who wanted to draw portraits or to make specific kinds of drawings for like plates and books and things like that. So they used things like, they used a device that would, it was a mirror device. I'm trying to remember what it's called, but you can buy them now. And so they'd look through this device and it would basically allow them to see their paper below them and see the subject. So they would basically trace a scene. They would trace a scene in real life. Now, nowadays people are like, tracing, right? Like tracing is this awful thing. In fact, we had, there's a famous comic artist named Greg Land who gets a lot of crap for using stock photo. Like they call him a tracer. He uses a lot of reference for his comic book art, whether that's tracing or he's, starting with a trace and then adding other details. That's how he does it. Here's the great thing I'll say about Greg Land is like his stuff might be ridiculous. Like people have accused him of tracing pornography in order to get certain facial expressions. But he always gets his stuff done, right? He's a professional artist in that he's making good looking art as his employer, Marvel Entertainment, wants him to make it. He's delivering it on time and under budget, and he's doing it in a way that it's not completely consuming all of his life and destroying his ability to do anything else. The starving artist really is like an amateur mindset, like I'm going to starve for my art. So if you're a professional writer, what does that mean? Well, that means that you're writing to market to some extent. Now, how you're going to write to market, and there's many things that go into that, but I think I saw an interchange on Twitter with, I think, Brian Niemeyer, and someone's like, well, should I write to the audience that reads at a 5th grade level? And Brian's response is basically like, yes, you should. You should be writing to the people who read at a 5th grade level if you want to be a professional. Why would he say that? Well, I want to write for advanced readers. I want to write for people who are cultured. And it's like, that's great. Are there enough people like that who want to buy your book for you to be a professional doing it? And if the answer is no, then you need to look at the other advice. Most people read at a 5th grade level, right? The most popular books that you will read nowadays are written at a 5th grade level. Now, that could be the fault of our education system, or I think it's probably a combination of, like, our education system doesn't teach people to read very well. It instills a hatred of reading in them. But more than that, I think the literacy of the population has always been a little bit overrated. If we go back and we look at the most popular stuff from 100 years ago, we look at pulp stuff, or I don't know, we'll just pick like Robert E. Howard. Does Robert E. Howard write much above a 5th grade level? And the answer is no. He writes, I would say, a little bit above a 5th grade level, like a middle school level. H.P. Lovecraft writes at like a middle school level, though his style's a little weird compared to modern styles. Versus Dickens. What does Dickens write at? Well, Dickens wrote at, what would probably be a middle school level back then. It's more advanced now, and the conventions are different. But Charles Dickens did not write like really dense, difficult to understand prose that could only be understood by adults who'd been reading for 40 years. That's not Charles Dickens. Charles Dickens wrote for entertainment. He was a professional, and he was very popular, and his stories were good. His stories were loved, and people of all ages and different types liked to read his books. So when you are thinking about writing to market, you have to think about what kind of people are going to be interested in buying books, and specifically buying the books that you are hopefully interested in writing. And I say that there's a limit to that because, if all I wanted to do was make money writing, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing at all. I wouldn't be writing weird, like kind of message fiction about AI and demons and religion and horror and this kind of stuff. Although this has been like mildly popular. My most popular stuff has been horror. For whatever reason, I guess I'm good at writing horror. I enjoy writing it, so I should probably write more of it. But I keep getting distracted by like fantasy, which I really love to do. There's a limit to that, right? Like if all I wanted to do was make money writing, I wouldn't be writing this stuff. I'd be writing romance novels. And do you have to, write romance novels, steamy romance? No, you could write like Mennonite romance, and it's actually very popular. So I'd be writing romance novels to make money. Why don't I do that? And the answer is because there's limits to what I'm willing to do for money, considering other alternatives, right? If your goal is to make $50,000 a year, like that's the 20 books to 50K crowd. They want to make $50,000 a year writing books, and they have a method for that where you find a market. It's a very professional attitude that's underserved, and you write like a 20 book long series in that market. And if you sell like one of those books a day, you'll make like $50,000 a year. Well, what if you don't want to do that? What if you hate 20 book long series like me? Well, there's lots of things I could do to make $50,000. Other people maybe have less options for making $50,000. But, I'm educated. I have a ton of work experience. You can make $50,000 a year driving a forklift. I don't know how forklift driving became a meme, but I used to drive a forklift, right? So I could go back to doing that. I could make $50,000 a year driving a truck because I used to do that. So if you are comparing it to other jobs which just don't require a lot of you, like commercial truck driving, I'd rather drive a truck than write romance novels. Not because I hate romance novels. I don't like to read them. I'm not super interested in them. And I don't dislike the people who like romance. If writing romance is your thing, awesome. All power to you. If you like reading romance, that's great too. That's not what I'm interested in doing. That doesn't fulfill me. So if I'm already doing something that's not fulfilling, I'd rather not write romance novels that require something of my intellect and spirit, and I'd rather drive a truck. Or I'd rather be a janitor or something else, right? Probably, I don't know if I can make $50,000 being a janitor, but you could do that driving a truck or like driving a forklift. You could, work full time and do that. So if I really wanted to, it's not that hard to get to the level where people are like wanting to get to writing, and it's less effort. To make $50,000 a year writing requires more than working full time, in my opinion. And because I don't have time to work full time, I'm a stay-at-home dad. I homeschool my kids. I have a household that I maintain physically, like with my labor, like fixing things. I still haven't finished remodeling my garage. That's how it works sometimes, right? But there's limits to that. So if it's like the cost of being a professional at something means you're doing something you hate, well, then pick a different profession and then do the other stuff with the more amateur mindset of like, I'm doing it because I want it to exist. This sounds weird, but if you think of someone like Vincent van Gogh, who was a very prolific artist, he wasn't a professional, right? He never made money making art. The people who made money making art were making art specifically that people wanted to buy or were doing portraits. So lots of professional artists in the 19th century you never heard of because they spent their time working for other people and doing what they wanted to do. At a certain extent, most of the really famous artists from the past, like Michelangelo, were professional because they had patrons who really liked their art and bought it from them, paid them to make art. He was, paid to paint the Sistine Chapel, paid to, commission to make different kinds of sculptures, and he did things probably for his own leisure too. Da Vinci didn't make his money as an artist. though he tends to be associated with Renaissance art, he made his money designing, as an engineer, designing war machines for Florence. And he did art on the side as an amateur, right? Now, we wouldn't call him an amateur in that he had low skill, but he didn't do it for money. He did art for its own sake. And that's very commendable. And maybe you're doing your art for its own sake. I tend to do my art for its own sake, but I have a balance. Like, I don't want to spend a lot of time writing a book that I feel like people won't read. That's going to be an impediment to me writing it. If I feel like I don't have an audience for something. If the audience is one person, maybe I can justify it. But if nobody wants to read it, no one wants to read your crap, maybe find something else to write, you know? Or write it, but don't have the attitude of like, I'm going to make money. So many people write the book that's like in their heart. They have a passion for it. And then they publish it. They either get it published or they, self-publish it. And then nobody buys it and they don't make any money. There's so many people who just don't make their money back from like, they never make their advance back. And then they're like, my writing career is over because I never recouped and no one ever will buy another book from me. It's like, that's a really sad place to be in. But did you write a book that people wanted to read? If you have the attitude of like, I'm going to write it, I'm going to put it out, I'm going to see if people like it. That's a lot of my attitude. Then it's okay if people don't buy it. You wrote it because it was a story you really wanted to tell. And then if people buy it, great. It's a bonus. It's a bonus. Have you considered writing a book for each genre? Nothing long, of course, just to dabble in each genre. I'd love to see your romance story. I've thought about that. It'd be interesting to write like a, romance novella or something like that. Or like a 50,000 word romance novel, something like Twilight. I haven't thought that much about it because, in my opinion, to write in a genre. So let's talk about what genre is. Because we can't, hop into writing genres. What is a genre? A genre is a shorthand for all the expectations that a reader has for a book that they're going to buy. If we're talking literature, if we're talking music, then it's expectations for what the music is going to sound like, right? So for me to understand the tropes and the expectations that go into a romance novel, I'm going to have to read more romance. And I've read some romance novels simply to understand them a little bit better because I think it's good to have a breadth of experience as a writer to know what's very popular now as well as sort of foundational books. So there's a lot of, this was another argument that I'll talk about. Is like, should you read old stuff or new stuff? The answer is you should probably read both if you want to do this for real. You should read the foundational stuff because it will give you insights that you won't get from new things. You want to read the things that inspired the new things. Anyway, I'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, I'd have to kind of steep myself in romance. I'd have to read a lot of romance to feel comfortable just doing one in the genre. And I don't really enjoy reading romance. It's not like I don't find romance very compelling. Maybe it's because I have it in my own life and I'm like a settled married man. I don't know. It tends to be a little more female heavy readership. That's one of the reasons it's so much more profitable is that women just are more interested in reading books and especially romance books than men are. What's going on? I don't know. That's text from my wife. So yeah, it's, what other genre would I write in? I've written nonfiction, I've written horror, written science fiction, written fantasy. There's many subgenres that go with that. So like, I guess I could write romance. I could write literary fiction. I could write a memoir. I think my memoirs would be so boring I wouldn't bother writing them. Like modern memoirs are about like the struggle of like the modern millennial memoir is not a very interesting thing to me. Like Ernest Hemingway memoir would be pretty interesting. He lived an interesting life, or, a memoir of somebody who really faced a lot of stuff, like endured war or something like that. But there's so many genres that I just would not be interested in reading, really, much less reading enough in order to produce a book. Romance would probably be I guess the one that, if I were going to choose a genre that I don't normally write in to write, it would probably be romance, because, well, I can make money doing it, so that's an incentive to finish the book, isn't it? But more than that, I think it'd be a good exercise to, get better at writing romance subplots, because we like romance subplots in our books. They're really effective. I'm glad I didn't make music my full-time gig. I work a full-time job by day, and I feel like I could put more of my soul into it since I don't have pressure of needing it to provide for myself and family. This is another thing of like, can you, prosperity without money? Like, what does prosperity mean? And a lot of times we think of prosperity in terms of numbers, especially here in the United States. It's like prosperity is making this amount of money, X amount of money per year. Prosperity is being able to do X, Y, Z, or have this kind of car. And there's nothing wrong with thinking of it in those terms if that's what motivates you. But a lot of times people will fall into despair because they're like, I'm not prosperous because I can never afford to own a home, even though I'm a lawyer making six figures. There's lots of people like that. I've met people who make six figures and they're like, I wish I could own a home. Can they never be prosperous? Well, think about prosperity outside of money. What is like life prosperity? Well, it could be, it could be having children, being married, right? Having that relationship persist, having children, even if you can't afford to own a home, you can have children and provide for them and have them grow up and watch them have their own lives, right? Prosperity as an artist, being able to produce the art and have an audience, even if you can't pay all the bills with the art. And there's many artists that people would say, oh, well, this is a big name guy and he has a day job, especially like metal musicians. There's a lot of metal musicians who have to have day jobs because even if you are really well known, it's often not enough money to get by. The music industry is so bad for artists. It's so bad for musicians, and it's worse now in terms of making a living than it has ever been in my entire life. It is harder now to make money playing music than any time I've ever seen. And I've been playing music for 30 years. And I've been making money playing music for more than 20. So it used to be like there was a point even where it was really tough. Like the music industry, quote, had collapsed, but I could still make money playing gigs. I don't know if I could make money playing gigs anymore. I don't know if it'd be worth my time. I don't know if there's enough live music opportunities for me to even be able to exploit that and make $40 an hour, let's say. For some people, $40 an hour seems like a lot, but you got to keep in mind, there's all the hours of practice you have to put in order to show up to the gig and play for $40 an hour, which is not that much. I used to charge, this was like 20 years ago, I used to charge $100 an hour, plus sometimes $500 an hour, depending on the gig, right? People hear that and like, man, I made so much money. You're not gigging 40 hours a week, right? It's just not possible. If I gigged 4 nights a week, which was like, I was super busy. I was playing 4 nights a week. That was like more gigging than any person I had ever known. I was playing more concerts than them. I was performing more than any person I'd ever met playing 4 nights a week. Other than like people who are on tour playing 5-6 nights a week for the length of a tour, like touring rock musicians or something like that. So playing 4 nights a week, it's like, was it enough to make my money? No, I still had to teach at the university and stuff in order to pay rent. It still wasn't enough money to make it. And it was like, people were like, man, I want to be as successful as you. How do I like have a music business like you have? I'm like, well, it takes a lot of work and a long time to build up a studio of students who will pay you, and to have gigs that will pay you, and to have a teaching job to do on the side that'll pay you. It takes a lot of work. And it's so much worse now. Like, I don't know a single person who can make money playing music, even other than like the people who are touring and working really hard at it and aren't at home. Most people, it's like the idea of touring sounds great when you're 18. It's less exciting when you're 40 and you've traveled a bit and you've toured before. It's less exciting because you're away from home. You're away from like the center of your life. And if you want to have a family and kids, it makes that a lot more complicated. It's more difficult to do that. And if you have a really supportive partner, or you can afford to take your family on the road, that's one thing. But most of the time, you're spending a lot of time away from your family, and that's tough. Have you seen any romance anime? Yes, I have. I actually think romance anime is pretty well done. It's usually pretty good. Let me think of one. I did a review of it. The Love, Chinibyo, and Other Delusions. It's actually a really well done anime. One of the best story arcs I've seen of like a little romance story. Yeah, really, really well done. Romance horror. Yeah, you could try romance horror, but really you'd probably have a romance subplot in a horror book. Spotify has killed so much of the profit you could make. You would need to sell overpriced t-shirts on tours to make it realistic. Spotify is... People focus on Spotify because of how terrible the money is from Spotify. And I know because my songs are on Spotify. And I'll look at it, oh, people listen to it. And I made like 2 cents, you know. But trust me when I say the music industry collapsed 10 years before Spotify existed. The music industry actually collapsed in the early 2000s. If you want to, and I talked about this in the Corporate Parody in the Arts on my Substack. davidvstewart.substack.com. You can check that out. Head on over there. I talk about this. If you want to pick a moment when the music industry died, it was the moment Napster went live. So Napster, you know, it's hard to talk about Napster in a way that doesn't get, I don't know, Gen X people all riled up, because the fact was that Napster allowed people to hear music without spending atrocious amounts of money to get a bad album. Most of the music in the 90s sucked, especially by the end of the 90s. It was really bad. So you were going down to the store and paying $20 sometimes for a CD to hear, and they didn't let you listen to the CDs at that point. So you couldn't tell what else was on the album. To hear one good song, and you felt like you wasted your money. Napster lets you just download the album or the one song you liked and listen to that one song on your, burn it on a CD or something like that. So Napster basically gave the main buyers of music, which is that 12 to 30 set of brackets, people between 12 and 24. After that, people stopped spending as much money on music. So it allowed them the option of paying for music. They didn't have to pay for music anymore. They could steal it or download it, pirate it. We don't need to get into that. So record sales fell off a cliff in about 1999. Between 1999 and 2004, record sales decreased to like a small fraction of what they were. Like 70% loss over 4 years. So the industry collapsed. Now, the way that record companies were able to stay afloat, it had to do with really exploitive contracts with artists. So they would give artists these big advances to record an album, like $300,000. Now, if you're a band and someone hands you a check for $300,000, what you tend to do is like spend it on like whiskey and blow, which lots of bands did. But you're supposed to record an album with it. And then you don't get paid again by the record company until you recoup all that. And the record company gets a portion of, they get all the money from the first record sales until you recoup. But they also get portions of, as really starting in the 90s, all your merchandise. So someone's talking about you have to hawk t-shirts on tour. Well, the record company gets the t-shirt money too. So you'll go on tour and make less money than you made at 7-Eleven, still owe the record company $100,000, and then not make any money selling t-shirts either. So as an artist, you were working, and I did a video about this years ago. People were like shocked. It's like, here's this well-known metal band. They broke up because they can't make money playing music. Or they're playing all these festivals and they're touring constantly. It turns out that they made $12,000 a year. So all of that work, that full-time music work, made them $12,000 a year. And they were very professional, right? You couldn't look at them and be like, these guys are amateurs. No, they made $12,000 a year. That's how bad the music industry was and is. So the music industry collapsed in the early 2000s. And the way that I made money was I played a lot of gigs, and I played music that didn't require me to sell a lot of CDs, which was classical music. You haven't been able to make money selling CDs in a very long time, at least not much money. So the truth is the industry, the recording industry as we knew it in the 20th century, and the way the model is still trying to work, that went away 20 years ago. And the new model is, I don't know how you make money with it. I think it has to be a patronage system. So if I were going to try to make music full time, I'd have a Patreon, and I'd be like streaming every week and trying to get out and gig too. I'd be trying to do both. But like, you stream to try to get fans, try to sell stuff on Bandcamp, try to sell merchandise. You're just trying to sell a lot of crap that's auxiliary to you making music. When in the old days, as an artist, you didn't have to do a lot of that. The record company handled a lot of those little grimy details you didn't want to deal with, including like having producers that would help you record the album and all that kind of stuff. So, Your Lie in April is a great romance plus music anime. Okay, might check it out. So yeah, the music industry collapsed. Now, this was another topic. I wanted to go back to this. What kind of stuff should you read? As a writer, what kind of stuff should you read? Let's say you want to be a professional. You want to have an audience and maybe make some money writing. What kind of stuff should you read? What should you spend your time reading? So my advice is a breadth of things. You do want to manage your influences pretty carefully, though. You don't want to just read anything that comes across your plate, because if you don't enjoy it, you've kind of wasted your time. If it's not going to inform your writing for what you want to do, maybe you've wasted your time. Foundational text. How important is it to read classics? I would say it's modestly important. You should read some literature from the past, especially literature that had a big impact, just to gauge sort of why it stuck around, why it had an impact when it was written, maybe, and to take away the good things that it does in terms of story, and maybe why people in the past, you could think about, okay, theory of mind, people in the past, why were they really interested in this book? So, for fantasy, I would say it's really good to read Lord Dunsany. It's good to read Robert E. Howard. It's good to read Edgar Rice Burroughs. These are foundational fantasy texts, but it's also good to read stuff that goes further back than that, let's say. So it's really good to read Ivanhoe, for instance, Sir Walter Scott. It's actually good to read James Fenimore Cooper. Any of the adventure literature of the 19th century. Treasure Island. Robinson Crusoe is a really cool read if you've never read it. So any of the adventure literature that influenced fantasy. So when we talk about genre, like what are the expectations of genre? What's the expectation of a reader? Fantasy is not really a genre. We're reading adventure fiction. Fantasy is like a setting, and it's a genre that's defined by the setting. Same thing with sci-fi. Sci-fi is a genre which is defined by its setting. It's set in the future, therefore it's science fiction. Is it an adventure story? Is it a mystery? Right? So the kind of book it is, mystery, adventure, romance, that can be married really to any setting. That's why Twilight was popular. It's like a horror setting, like vampires. Not really horror, but it's really a romance book, right? So it's good to go back and read a lot of foundational stuff. Read adventure fiction from the past. If you've never read stuff from the 19th century, just pick a book and try it out. And if you hate it, put it down and try a different book. And see what you like. There's tons of good stuff. There's tons of good stuff out there. Read Last of the Mohicans. Read a Sherlock Holmes story. You could read Charles Dickens, not really adventure, but you can read Charles Dickens. It's always good to read Dickens. You can read Alexander Dumas. Read Three Musketeers, right? Great adventure story. Or what's the one? Not counting The Man in the Iron Mask. Count of Monte Cristo. Those are good too. right? So go read a couple of those. They're good to read and they're fun. And if you don't like them, well, at least you have an idea of why people might have liked them and how they may have influenced what came afterwards. What else should you read? So I mentioned like some foundational stuff. Obviously, you should read, I feel like there's a lot of forgotten fantasy from the mid 20th century that is really worth reading because it influenced modern fantasy. So let's say you really like modern fantasy. You like Brandon Sanderson, or you like Robert Jordan or Steven Erikson. I like Steven Erikson. It's good to go back and read what influenced them. So if we take Steven Erikson as an example, well, what influenced Steven Erikson? He wrote the Malazan books. Well, you should read The Black Company by Glenn Cook. So you should go back and read Glenn Cook. And you should go back and read Michael Moorcock. And you should go back and read Poul Anderson. And a lot of these, or you should go back and read Dying Earth by Jack Vance, right? And take a look at those books. All of those are good, right? Dying Earth, I think, is way more influential than people realize. So you should find, you already like Steven Erikson, let's say. Well, it's good to go back and read what influenced Steven Erikson so that you get an idea of what constructed his style and his worldview and how did he arrive where he's at and how does that inspire me and make me want to do something new and original too. So you go back, read Glenn Cook, things like that. So read a breadth of things in time, especially. So if you really want to read fantasy, you should read like Robinson Crusoe and Treasure Island. And you should read also Glenn Cook. And you should also read whatever modern stuff is popular. So the reason you want to read the modern stuff is like that's what people are buying now. And so you can get a good line on this is what modern readers are really attracted to in this book. This is what I think they are. So I talk about Twilight a lot because I think it's just such a good book for what it is. Why is it so popular? It really nailed romance. It really nailed romance from a teenager's perspective with some really exciting supernatural elements that made what would be a pretty standard teen romance. If you took the vampire stuff out of it, it'd be a really boring teen romance. It's the vampire stuff which makes it interesting. It's what makes it mysterious. It's what makes the character of, what's his name? Edward or whatever, the vampire. It makes him so much more interesting. And then you have werewolves in the second book or whatever, right? So get a bead on what modern readers are interested in. And then you have all of this. We have all these tools. You have all these options for how you can write something new and interesting for them as well. So if you're looking at Twilight and you're looking at the romance thing, go back and read Pride and Prejudice. It's a romance book to a certain extent. We think they don't, your English teacher doesn't like to put it in romance, but what's the plot about? Oh, it's about all these women and their romances. Okay. It's kind of a romance book. Go back and look at that one and think, well, how can I bring some of this wit forward? Or watch Oscar Wilde plays or something like that. Go back and look at something that's more foundational to what makes up the core of that genre. And you'll find that there's more tools you can bring forward. Now, I'm going to apply this to music real quick, too. So I'm not sure what to call this. There's a thing in heavy metal. I'm gonna pick on heavy metal here. Most metal guitarists are low skill robot monkeys, especially when it comes to lead guitar. I'm insulting metal. How is this metalhead doing this? Well, here's what it is. I remember going to a Black Sabbath concert nigh on 20 years ago. I've seen Black Sabbath a couple times. But I think this was Black Sabbath with Ronnie James Dio. So it was Heaven and Hell. And someone near me was like, what the hell? He's not, what is he doing? I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, it's like, this isn't what's on the record at all. And he was talking about Tony Iommi's solos. He plays left-handed. So Tony Iommi wasn't playing any solos from the record. He was playing different things. Why would he do that? I'm like, Tony Iommi is a jazz guitarist. Tony Iommi improvises a lot when he plays. Ronnie James Dio improvises a lot when he sings. Geezer Butler improvises. Tony Appice improvises as a drummer. The live performance is full of things that are done on the spot, including solos, including vocal solos, including bass solos, including drum solos and drum fills and all the stuff that goes into a live performance. That's why the live performance is fun to see, is that it's not the same as the record. But this person was perplexed. They'd never seen a band improvise live. Why does Black Sabbath do that? Well, they started off playing blues and jazz back in the late 60s. So the core of what Sabbath is improvisational. Same thing with Led Zeppelin. Led Zeppelin is very improvisational. So what happened was, and I've talked with Jesse White either on his channel or on my channel about this phenomenon. And it's a problem in metal, is that metal guys listen to only metal, and they're completely unaware of the traditions which gave rise to metal or how the foundational players of metal approached their craft and how they came up with things. A solo is from jazz. It's an improvised solo. If you were to go and watch Miles Davis, you'd see a lot of things you'd never heard before because he would be improvising. There's a set of chords, there's the harmony that creates the structure, and then you are playing new things on the spot. That's what that's about. So a guitar solo is improvised. That's what it's supposed to be. Same thing happens when people see Yngwie Malmsteen. He didn't play anything that was on the record. Yeah, Yngwie is a real player. That's why. He knows how to play jazz. Right? He's playing out of the jazz tradition, and you guys are listening to Cannibal Corpse and thinking that playing a canned solo is what you're supposed to do. So there's a bunch of people that think, I'm going to learn Kirk Hammett's solo, and I'm going to play it back note for note. And that's how I'm going to get good at lead guitar. I'm like, you will never get good at lead guitar that way. You got to go back and you have to go get on your Jamie Aebersold records and learn to play Autumn Leaves and learn how to solo over that before you can hope to do something as good as Steve Vai or any of your like guitar heroes that come out of the jazz tradition. Steve Vai is an incredible improviser. He's not a guy who just plays canned solos every night. That would be boring, right? That'd be boring anyway. So there's all these metal guys who they write a solo. And then you look at the solo in, let's say you look at it in the DAW, and it's like a bunch of little takes they stuck together. So it's absolutely like perfect. And then they go and play it live, and they play it note for note live. And I've seen a ton of metal bands that do that. To me, that's kind of boring. If I wanted to hear the record, I'd just go put the record on, right? Well, why would I come see you live if you're not going to do anything different from what's on the record? But I come from a jazz tradition. I spent a lot of time playing jazz growing up. So anyway, I bring that up. And then when you hear a modern metal record, like modern metal to me is often so boring because of this. Because you hear a solo and it sounds like a technical exercise. They got their 3-note per string thing and they're going, and then when they do a tap, they tap pick a chord and then they play some sweeps over the chords, and like that's their solo. There's nothing more than that. It's just, it ends up being boring. This was a criticism of, what was the band that I heard, and I did a little review of them, and then they attacked the live stream with a copyright, even though I was promoting their work. Fellowship. The guitar solos are okay, but they all sound like technical exercises. It's clear that the guy has never spent time playing jazz. This was just really clear. They sound like a series of very well constructed technical sections, and that's it. There's nothing more to it. So yeah, you gotta, if you really want to play like Yngwie, you gotta listen to the stuff Yngwie listened to. You got to go back and listen to blues. You got to go back and listen to Jimi Hendrix. You got to go back and listen to Stevie Ray Vaughan. You got to go back and listen to Albert King. You got to go back and listen to Miles Davis and John Coltrane. You have to go and listen to the things which were foundational for the thing that you are trying, that you're most inspired by, if you want to get the full understanding of what you're doing. So don't neglect that. In literature, hey, you like Steven Erickson, great. You need to read Glenn Cook. You need to read Michael Moorcock. You need to read Jack Vance. Then you need to go back and read, Alexander Dumas or some other inventor. Read something from the 19th century that's even more foundational. Go read Edgar Rice Burroughs. Really, like, probably the most important writer of the early 20th century, certainly. Although he's never discussed in literature classes, which is very sad. He's been, like, his existence almost is buried, even though he's so important. Anyway, go back and read those things. So, and then on the flip side, if you're like, oh, well, I don't like any modern stuff and I'm not going to read it and I'm going to write exactly like Jack Vance, and then you're going to be clueless as to why you don't sell any books. You're like, why doesn't anyone buy my book? I wrote a book exactly like this writer I like. If people aren't currently reading things like that, then they're going to be a little bit out of step with what you're trying to do. So you have to have an idea of what people actually want to read now. If you want to be a professional. If you're just wanting to make literature that nobody reads, then don't take any of this advice. Read the things you love, write the things you love, and just don't worry about anything else and have fun with it, right? Last thing I'll say about that is that whether you are playing music or you are writing, you have to practice. So the reading and getting things into your ears, that's one part of it, but really you got to spend time doing it if you actually want to get good at it. Not just listening, but doing. Yeah, Weather Report's a lot of fun. I like Weather Report. Let's see here. I've been meaning to read the original Disney movies like Little Mermaid and Pinocchio. So Hans Christian Andersen's Little Mermaid is very good. And I recommend people read it. And I think it's just so much better than the Disney version. It has such a deeper message, but it's not something Disney could ever put out now because it's Christian. Hans Christian Andersen. It has not just a Christian message, but it has a message about denying the self for the good, having active love towards a person that denies your own desires. Some people have said this is an allegory for Hans Christian Andersen wanting, being gay or wanting to be in a gay relationship and then not being in a gay relationship. In other words, he denied that desire of the self for his spiritual benefit. That, I'm sorry for my dogs. So, yeah. Quiet, guys. Shh. Might have to throw them outside. We'll see. I don't want to throw them outside, though, because it's like 95 degrees or something. No, it's really hot. Very hot. Anyway. Yeah, so you wouldn't be able to make the Hans Christian Andersen version because it has Christian themes, which are... maybe they were possible in like the 70s or 80s, but they're like not possible now. You could never have a thing where somebody basically gains eternal life and gains a soul and meets angels and stuff. You couldn't do it. Sabbath with Dia was just amazing. The best version of the band, in my opinion. Second best was actually... Okay, somebody's now ringing my doorbell. I will be back. All right, sorry about that. That's how it happens. My neighbor, he's had some questions for me, so I'm gonna give him a call later. Listen to some good music. All right, there's some music. More music. I finished Bravely Default 2. I know you said you didn't like the character that much, but it was a really good game. Maybe the characters get more interesting. Maybe pick it back up. Yeah, we'll see. I like the first 2 Bravely Default games, so you know, I'd probably eventually. Could you do a video showing your physical media, like all my records? I got them all over the place. I'd have to dig them out. I got like boxes of stuff. There's books behind me, software. I have a whole nother room that's just full of books, like a library. It's like my school room too, but it's full of stuff. They should listen to Weather Report and how they bring the energy while still retaining those jazz roots. I mean, jazz is always very energetic. You can't listen to Giant Steps and think there's no energy in it. Jazz is fun to listen to with your special gal. It depends on what you mean by jazz. This is another problem with genre, right? You could listen to something like Bitches Brew and she'd be like, turn this off. Or like A Hum by Charles Mingus. She'd be like, what is this? Or you could listen to something like Benny Goodman and she'd be like, oh, this sounds like dancing music. Now that's funny. Benny Goodman played canned solos. They played canned solos in his band. So solos that were intended to sound like they were improvised, but they were not. What is with modern RPG, JRPGs just dunking on religions? Final Fantasy 16 sort of falls into that trap towards the end game, but the story is pretty solid. Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't tell you exactly, but like it started being a trend in the 90s. Like it was really big in Final Fantasy Tactics, that they did it pretty well. I think it's a story trope that people latch onto. It's an easy way to be like, things are like this, but really this. And so you can do it with religion or something else where you want to have, there's like a secret to the world. Final Fantasy 13 actually did a really good job with this, but it's not so religious. It's more like the entire construction of the world is sort of illusory. And that like there's these godlike beings that want to kill everyone in order to bring God back, to get God's attention. Crazy. So yeah, I couldn't tell you exactly what it is, but it gets kind of old to me. I think there's lots of other things you can do that it's like things are really like this with organizations or institutions. Not just like the church is secretly evil. I kind of miss like Dragon Age Origins. The church wasn't secretly evil at all. Like people were pretty sincere about the church, and I like that. But not everyone agreed with it or took it seriously. Like there's more ways to do this other than like church secretly evil. I meant to play Final Fantasy 16 today, but I didn't. I guess I could like stop the stream and then go like play on the PS5. We could do that. I like Glenn Cook's depiction of the Norse god realm in his Instrumentality series. Very bleak and dark and other, like mortals aren't supposed to be there. I haven't read that series. I've mostly read Black Company, so I should check that out. Sounds cool. There's so much to read. It's like, have you read all of the Glenn Cook? I haven't read all of them, right? I haven't read every Michael Moorcock book. The guy's written like 100 books. I've read a good portion of them. I've read... What series have I read? I think I've read 3 or 4 Michael Moorcock series. I'm trying to think of which ones. Hawkmoon. Hawkmoon's a really good adventure series. I'd actually recommend Hawkmoon to a lot of people. Just start with Michael Moorcock. Very easy place to start. Hawkmoon. Elric gets so much attention, but I don't think it's his best series. I think some of the best books and some of the most interesting stories are around the Elric area, but I don't think it's his best, Michael Moorcock's best series. I'd probably say Hawkmoon. Or what's the series that starts with Knight of Swords? What am I thinking of? Is it Corum? Corum, that's right. The Knight of Swords, Corum. So the Corum is really interesting. It's a really cool series. Dark, but cool. Modern, that's always been that way. 90% of JRPGs have you kill God as the final boss. Well, I mean, I wouldn't say that. A lot of them, it's like the bad God you kill. You don't kill like God. You kill like a being trying to be God. Is there a market for the adventures of a drunken wizard? Yes. Hell yes. And that fact, that's a good idea. I'm going to steal it. No, I'm not really going to steal it. But yes, there is. So a drunken wizard, I think that would be hilarious. Or like, I don't know. I know how I would write him. Is I would make him a stoner. I'd have a stoner wizard who's like token up constantly, getting into various adventures. That's what I would write. In fact, I think it would be a lot of fun. I think it'd be a great way to write a bunch of like 4,000 or 5,000 word stories. And as I'm thinking about it, I'm like, okay, yeah, we got this stoner wizard. We introduce him like getting high. He sees some things. He's not sure if it's magic or like he's just hallucinating from the weed or something, or like somebody put something in it, and like he needs, someone hires him to do something, banish some evil spirits. He can't see the evil spirits, so he takes mushrooms to see the evil spirits. And he's fighting them, and then he wakes up in jail the next day, and it turns out he was like fighting somebody's dog. He really was hallucinating, but there was like a little, yeah, you can steal this if you want, I guess. But he's like, no, you know what though? There was this thing that I saw, and I think that was real. And so he focuses on that. He magics himself out of the jail. He goes back. He investigates what he remembers with the mushrooms, and he finds that this thing that he was investigating was real, this thing he saw. That leads him to a cave where there's actually like a witch doing voodoo or something, and then he has to kill her. And how does he kill her? Well, he finds out that he can't kill her body, and he has to get high in order to see the soul that's animating her body and banish it or something, right? That's how I would write it. Sounds really weird, right? It's like the stoner wizard story, but maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll write that one. I just came up with it right now, but it sounds like a lot of fun. I think it'd be really hilarious. And I don't know what I'd do with it. Maybe just put it out as like a little free Amazon 99-cent read, or a little 99-cent read. Be fun. Kyle, I'm at 25,000 words on my next book. This one's probably going to be 60,000 ideally. That's a really good length. A lot of the classic fantasy and science fiction that I love is in the 50 to like 80,000 word range. I think it's a really good range. I've written a couple books in that range, and I think it's good. Japanese concept of Christianity. The game theorists made an interesting video on Final Fantasy and religion. They brought it up to Japanese culture when they look at religion differently. Do you take vitamin supplements? Not usually. I love Hawkmoon. It feels like traditional fantasy and trippy psychedelic at the same time. Yeah, Hawkmoon's cool. With like the jewel in the skull and Count Brass being colored to brass and having brass armor. Count Brass has his own series I haven't read though. Or his own books. Ralph Bakshi's Wizards, yes. Sailors on the Sea of Fate is my favorite. Really? That one? That's like one of my least favorite. Okay, Sailor on the Seas of Fate is my favorite Elric story because of the different versions of the Eternal Champion. I actually think it's really a bad inclusion in this story because it's like Michael Moorcock writing his own fan fiction. I'd say it's probably one of my least favorite Elric books. And if you were to start there, you'd probably never finish it and never read Elric. First one you should probably read is actually written after most of the other books. It's called Elric. It's just called Elric of Melnimene. It's a great place to start. It's a foundational kind of origin story for him. Then read Tower of the Pearl. Oh, is it Tower of the Pearl? No, not the Vanishing Tower. Fortress of the Pearl. Fortress of the Pearl. Fortress of the Pearl is awesome. It's my favorite Elric book. Then you can read Sailor on the Seas of Fate, which is actually 4 stories kind of squished together, which there was a lot of fantasy books at that time that were 4 or 5 stories. Like Dying Earth by Jack Vance is just a bunch of short stories kind of squished together into one book. It's much worse with Sailor on the Seas of Fate. And what's the other one? Weird of the White Wolf, I think. To be honest, I'm not as big a fan of either of those, even the stories that are in them, compared to some of the other ones that are more kind of full size. Tales of Earthsea, I've read those. So the Earthsea books get worse and worse as you go. The first one's good. The second one's really good. The third one's okay. The fourth one's not good. And the fifth one is bad. So read the first 3 Earthsea books and stop is my recommendation. And then no one's going to do that. No one's going to read the first 3 and then stop. They're going to read the 4th because they won't take my advice, and then they're going to be incredibly bored and annoyed by the 4th and how everything turns out badly. Is it worth reading specific authors to learn aspects of their style? Say, like reading Burroughs to learn to write fights in action. Yeah. Totally. It's worth reading those because there's always going to be something in them that's interesting. So yes. As far as like making a list of like, I have to learn this to learn how to do this, like I wouldn't do that. At least to start, like maybe later you can think of things like that, but I would just start by reading things that look interesting. My drow enchantress is always drunk. Hey, are you a fan of Bill Evans, the jazz pianist? I think so. I don't know if I have any just Bill Evans records. I think I have records with Bill Evans on them. Yeah, I'm not sure if I have any. Well, he played with Miles Davis, so yeah. Like, I gotta look up Bill Evans. I don't think I have any just Bill Evans records, though. I don't know how much solo stuff he did. He worked with a lot of people, though. I think my favorite jazz pianist, I don't know. Maybe Herbie Hancock? He's just done so much crazy stuff. When Tony Bennett died, I kept thinking how he outlived Bill, who was younger by 40 years. Would be interesting if using magic made you high, but eventually you went completely insane. That's cool. That's a cool idea too. Madness. Let's see here. Watching the squirrels. Squirrel! I was going to be ancient evil, then I got high. I was going to save the entire world, but then I got high. See, I would make it kind of a hedge wizard thing. Like just a guy going around doing jobs. Kind of like those Witcher stories. Instrumentalities is fictional pre-Renaissance Europe where on one arming captain accidentally figures out how to kill spirits, monsters, gods, which makes them very, very angry. Elric's fantastic opening. The way Moorcock inverts the sentence structure when describing Elric creates such a unique tone. Yeah, it's something you could do. White was his, like white, alabaster was his skin. White was his skin. Red were his eyes. I love being able to do that in English. It's a great just little technique. But if you're using things like Grammarly, it's going to tell you you're wrong all the time. So just be aware of using automated or spell checkers and stuff like that, grammar checkers. They'll find some things that you need to find, like the fact that you wrote the word it twice in a row, but they're going to suggest all kinds of style changes that are actually suboptimal for writing fiction in particular. You want to be able to have the freedom to switch those sentences around and be creative. Or in some cases, like list things, like have the same sentence structure 8 times in a row for effect. They'll tell you not to do that, but you should do that sometimes. Count Brass series is just another Hawkmoon series, which is still really good. Hawkmoon interacts with other champions and transforms into a female champion in the middle book. What is your favorite magical creature? Dragons. If you listen to Jim Hall, he's the only jazz guitarist I've listened to. His record with Bill Evans. Intermodulation is fantastic. I've not heard that one. I don't listen to a ton of jazz guitarists. I like on their own. Maybe... Who am I thinking of? I've seen him a couple times. Mark Whitfield. Mark Whitfield's a good guy to listen to. A lot of jazz guys, it's kind of weird, like interacting with a lot of jazz guitarists over the years, they always set their guitars up in a weird way that I would never do. You know, like Mark Whitfield played this big hollow body guitar, which he then plugged into an amp, which kind of defeats the point of the hollow body. Or like heavy ass strings. I'm like, nah, man, make it easy. The other thing, like, I don't know. I feel like jazz guitarists play these big jazz boxes because everybody plays them, not because they have special tone. They really don't. They're acoustically active, so they feel like an acoustic guitar in your hands. But once they come out of the amp, they just sound like any other electric guitar. You could have a no-body electric. This has been proven, by the way. Guys have gone on YouTube and proven this. Where's the tone of your electric guitar? The answer is all of the sound comes from your pickups. It's your pickups, your strings to a lesser extent. Your tone wood does not matter. Whether it's a solid body or hollow body doesn't matter. You could just, if you have a string strung in space and you put a pickup up to it, it'll sound the same as a pickup in a guitar. It's the pickups that make the sound. So play whatever guitar. If I were going to play jazz, if I showed up to like a big band and they didn't care that I didn't have a jazz box, I would play my Parker Fly because it's the easiest guitar in the world to play. It has the most tonal options, including for jazz. How do I get a good jazz tone? Put it on the neck pickup, roll your tone off. Actually, let's talk about jazz. Let's do some jazz tone. Wes Montgomery is my gold standard for jazz guitars. Wes Montgomery is awesome. You know, but like I never listened to a ton of just jazz guitarists on their own. I guess because I get kind of bored of the tone. But anyway, let's grab a guitar. Grab the Parker Fly. Why the Parker Fly? Look at this thing, man. Look at that. You guys see that? Man, it goes like, there's no heel. Neck just goes straight into the body. This is like it is so light. This is like the Ferrari of guitars. The Ferrari of guitars. Let's plug it in. Let's do some playing here. Hopefully hopefully the battery's still good. You don't have to change your battery too often in these guitars, but you know. Man, this guitar feels so good to play. All right, let's get it a little more distant. You can. Oh. There you go. No mess. Pull up Ableton here so I can get a little amp sim going. Where am I? Put me over there. Okay, jazz tone. Really easy, guys. Here's your jazz tone. I played guitar for 10 years and then I quit. Well, you can always pick it back up, man. Even if you sold your guitar, you can buy another one for $100 that actually is going to be 90% as good as, not as good as a Parker Fly. I mean, nothing's as good as a Parker Fly, right? But it'll be 90% as good as like a $1,000 guitar you'll get if you set it up correctly. If you have a friend who can do the setup, or like, man, that neck is perfect. It's like, all right, anyway, let's see here. I'm going to turn this on record. Let me see if I can get the, is that it? Here, we'll put this up here. Maybe can I frame this up so you guys can see what I'm doing? There we go. Boom. All right, we're going to put it on auto. I'm going to put, there's a little plugin I use called Restream, and then this will send this to a local broadcast. And then it should be coming, and it should hear it nice and clear on the stream. Okay. I'm going to turn this up a little bit so I can hear what the heck I'm doing. All right, jazz tone. Really easy. I don't even have to turn on an amp, man. We're going to go neck pickup. This one. This is where like you're going to get that bass tone, that kind of bassy, boomy, boom tone. Neck pickup. No amp. Take this, just roll the tone off a little bit. Now you have a jazz tone. Okay, then we can add an amp. Basic amps for jazz are super easy. Driving color, drop an amp in a cabinet. 212, clean. This is going to sound like a jazz chorus. I need to turn it up a little bit. I can't hear what I'm doing. Actually, might need to turn the input up a bit. I was like blowing up my input with these EMG pickups. Bit. We want the treble dialed down a little bit and a little bit of mids and the bass, and then you can dial your tone off a bit. Yeah, I would totally play this for jazz. And you can do a little bit of reverb. You can also play with your thumb if you want an even more like mellow. And if you have nails, of course you can play with the flesh of your thumb. And you can also play the back of your nail. You can get a lot of different tones there. And you can also change your tone by, rather than playing, a lot of people play down here, like down by the bridge, and then they have to like roll their tone off a bunch. You can also just play further up, about the, like right on the pickup. That'll darken your tone up quite a bit. You know, you can get a lot of different sounds there. So jazz is super easy. Nowadays, I probably wouldn't play jazz. Right, there's the tone. Roll the tone off. I probably wouldn't play jazz. I actually like the sound of that amp. And then funk is like usually like a 2 pickup, like bright thing. Get that kind of sound. My audio volume, it's probably just because my mic is far away from my face. Or we can turn up the volume on the guitar input. I was playing there we go. So anyway, jazz is one of the easiest sounds, I think, to dial in. You just roll off the tone. So I wouldn't even play like a jazz box. I would just play like a Parker Fly. I'd play like my favorite guitar and then just make it really good. What's the name of this guitar? What tuning is this? It sounds sick. Normal tuning. This is like E standard tuning. This is a guitar called, it's made by Parker Guitars. They're out of business. This one's from 1997. It's called Parker Fly. It's like the Ferrari of guitars. So I'll explain this guitar because it's really cool. So it was designed by Ken Parker and Larry Fishman. Larry Fishman designed this bridge here that you see, which is a very special bridge because it has a piezo pickup in it. And you can basically get some acoustic guitar tones out of it pretty easily. Let me get the tone kind of dialed in here. You know. That's an acoustic guitar pickup sound here. You want kind of amp to really hear it, but so you can do your worship band stuff. There's a toggle switch that switches between the bridge, the pickup on the bridge on this tremolo. Both of them, magnets and the piezo, so you can blend them. You have a volume, so you can kind of blend them. Or I really like the middle selection on the magnets and then a little bit of piezo blended in, so you get this kind of quacky sound. Whatever you want to do with that. Or you can go forward and then just have your regular magnet setup. This has 3 good sounds in the magnets. Bridge pickup, these are by DiMarzio. You can drive an amp just with that bridge pickup. You know? Nice and hot. You get a good sound on the neck pickup. And it came from the factory set up. You don't even need, there's a truss rod in it, but you don't need the truss rod. You also don't need to adjust the individual heights of the saddles because it's perfectly matched to the radius of the neck, which is almost flat. So it's really nice. The pickups are perfectly adjusted for height, and for balanced output, everything's perfectly balanced. It comes from the factory. That's why it's like a Ferrari. You have separate volumes. Here's your master volume. You also have volume for, like, if I want to blend these and have like mainly, let's say mainly, I can blend the magnets in as I go. And blend the magnets in. Get some cool effects. The tremolo doesn't use regular springs. As you can see, the back is, there's no spring setup for the trem. It's a flat spring that's behind here. That's why it's so thin. There's a little dial here. If you ever change your tunings, you can use the dial to just change the tension on the spring to make sure, like if you wanted to drop this down to D standard, like drop it down a whole step, it's really easy. You just there's a little switch on the back to block the bridge. You flip that, so then it becomes a fixed bridge, no trem, and then you retune it, flip that off, and then turn the little dial until it gets to exactly in tune. So it's super quick to change whatever kind of tuning you want and get the tremolo perfectly balanced. It works on these cams. It's just incredibly well designed. This one I got a deal on, and it didn't come with a trem bar. I had to manufacture this trem bar. So I made this one, and I may make another one that's just a little bit better than that one, since that was my first attempt. You get a lot of cool stuff with this. So yeah, it's an amazing guitar. If you can find them. The ones that are really sought after are ones like this. This is the pre-refined with the DiMarzio pickups instead of Seymour Duncan. Just a lot of little things that are different from the versions they made after Ken Parker sold the brand. But anyway, they're great guitars, absolutely amazing. Probably this is like the guitar I would use to play most of the stuff that I had an option to play. Sounds good for metal too. Let me do some quick. We'll do some quick metal. Getting a weird high pitched thing there. I'm not sure what that is. Oh, that's from the. Too loud. I like this one a little better. Presence, a little more gain. Maybe add a little delay there. Some cool sounds. So yeah, you can do a lot with this guitar. I'm getting kind of a weird noise right now. I'm not sure what that is. May just be some EMI. Put in a gate here. Threshold down. Put in a glue compressor. Maybe this one. Kind of interesting to have that all set up that way. A little more middle. Oh no, let's do a 412. There we go. There we go. There it is. That's the sound. Messed up, but yeah, you get the idea. No, so they're not all piezos. There's one piezo, two regular magnetic pickups. These are in series. This is parallel, but we have a coil tap automatically. So if I put it back on like something, you know. That's the outer coil, so you get that Strat sound. And you can even blend in the piezo if you want. I'm getting a weird high-pitched thing out of here. I think it might be the battery going bad, which happens, you know. We get some good sounds here for like metal, you know. So yeah, you can do a lot with it. Cool guitar. I'd probably just play jazz. I'd probably play jazz with this one. Let's see here. Thoughts on the work of Homer? Okay, let's back up a little bit because I've been goofing off here. Let's see here. What's the name of this guitar? Okay, yes, it is Parker Fly. Thoughts on the work of Homer? Definitely worth reading and great. Extremely foundational. Everyone should read Homer at least once. Something straight up out of business. Piano, yeah, they're out of business. Oh, the Parker Company. Yeah, so Ken Parker sold the company and then they shut down around 2010, I think, 2011, somewhere around there. So yeah, you can't get Parker Flies anymore. They don't make them anymore. Thoughts on MK Ultra? No thoughts because of MK Ultra. Was just grooving on Lenny White's The Sorceress off The Romantic Warrior. I'm not too sure about McDonald's. You would need to look up at the historical performance compared to, I don't know what that is here. Okay. In the Wake is one of my favorite songs ever. Thank you. That's all bass. It's all fretless bass and keyboards. And EWI, actually. There's an EWI on it. All three pickups, yeah. How much do you know about pianos? Not that much. I moved them as a side hustle, and it's wild just how many companies have died out. Very fun seeing manufacturers before American brands close. Yeah, I don't know that much about the business of pianos, really. I'm not like a piano technician. I know a little bit about messing with pianos, but, I'm not an expert. I have moved a couple. And I've told this story about how, I think it was Cuesta College got its Steinway stolen. Some people came dressed, and they're like, "Here, we're here to get the Steinway." And they're like, "Where's the Steinway?" And they're like, "Oh, it's over on the stage there." And they just ran in and took the legs off, put it in the back of a truck, and drove off with it. And that was the end of that Steinway. I have the Kawai ES920 keyboard. I'm working on, I don't know, Project FAP. I wouldn't call it FAP. Fazioli Acquisition Project. What graphic novels do you own? I don't know. I'm surprised there are still new Iliad Odyssey translations coming out. Oh, being published. Yeah. It's interesting. It's been in the same language the whole time. Here, I'm going to switch this around real quick. Talk a little bit about different pickups. But yeah, that's the Parker Fly. The other thing about the Parker Fly is that it has this weird headstock. And you can't like hang it on a hook because notice that you're missing the headstock here. It has locking tuners. You actually don't need a locking nut with this trim. And the whole thing's carved out on the back. It's just really nice. Really cool guitar. Although some people don't like this horn. That upper horn bonks into their chest and they don't like it. But it doesn't bother me. So I think it's probably my favorite electric guitar. Beautiful. Love it. Love it. Took a little work to get it set up though. Okay. That's right. That's the only way to hang it. Is by that horn. Wait, did I actually hang it in there? I don't want that falling down. I fixed that one up. I actually put. So some people know about this 8-string guitar. I actually put the original EMG pickups. Put EMGs back in this. It originally had EMGs. I took the EMGs out and had DiMarzios in it. DiMarzio Deactivator 8s, which were the only 8-string pickup that you could get for a long time because 8 strings were very new. Let's see here. So let's take a look at this because this is some interesting stuff I wanted to talk about. Did I do this all on master? Oh, I'm so dumb. No wonder. No wonder you guys can't hear what I'm doing. There we go. You do some interesting stuff with the... Why do we do low tunings like in Doom music? It's because you get some really interesting effects that happen. Let's turn that down to about 6. doesn't sound too weird, right? As we start to get lower, some interesting things start to happen with our amp. And if you're using one of these other impulse responses like a 112, you get some really crazy sounds. Some really strange things that happen. Let's turn off that compressor. Here it sounds like a normal guitar tone. Just a little bit. But as you get lower, to get some weird effects. It changes the way the amp ends up working. So even on something like a rock setting, you get this. It's like doom sound. Yeah, it's really interesting. So, anyway, do you think advertising has an adverse effect on culture? Yes. It does. Of course it does. It seems pretty obvious to me, but... I had a setup here. I'm gonna open that up. This like drone setup. No, don't save changes to this. All right. Turn these on. Here we go. Let's put a noise gate on these though. Need to have like a there we go. And do it on this one too. Copy. I can copy paste effects, which is cool. Did I get in there? Put it back here. There we go. It has to do with the lower harmonics and the way the lower overtones and how they interact with each other as you go lower and lower with an amp. It gets a lot crazier. Yeah. I get flashbacks to this game, Spec Ops The Line, the guitar solo, and it has that off-kilter, subtle feeling. Yeah, Spec Ops The Line's cool. Lately, it's been cool to hate on it, but it's actually a pretty good game. Have you seen Richmond North of Richmond? No. Folk song, just dobro and vocals. It's blowing up even in the mainstream. I have not, but I can almost certainly predict people will forget about it quickly because our culture is, it's just, we have a very forgettable kind of culture here. Let's find some drums. Here we go. Played some drums in. Turn this guy on. Let's even come up with something. Let's go down to 60. Nice adagio. Out in. All right. No, that's all right. Let's do one bar counting. There we go. I'm rushing. Let's try that again. I'm not going to be able to do hi-hats at the same time with this setup here. Stop practicing a little bit. One and two. Still rushing. Yeah, I'm rushing the crap out of this. I want it to go about 65. That's the problem. Sucker up. Just unties it. Do another one with just hi-hats. There we go. There it is. All right. Look at this. There it is. So out of time that like it ended up on the wrong beat. All right, and then we'll hit this. Just quantize that real quick. All right, then we just copy Copy paste, baby. And then yeah, just do 4 phrases. All right. Then we get back down here. We can record some riffs. Anyway, let's play. Started me off in the middle of that phrase. Let's do that again. All right, let's take a listen to that. See how that sounds. Sorry, let's turn off the metronome. Yeah, that's not bad. Yeah, it's a Doom. That's some Doom. This is a Doom show. Well, I'm like right at the. There's like not enough headroom on this. These pickups are so hot right now. Like it's. You know, you do a lot of cool stuff with this. All right. Now let's add a lead track. So all I'm going to do to add a lead track is I'm going to add one audio track here. We'll set up a. There we go. We will set up a amp here. do, and I'm gonna do like a more classic like lead amp for this. There we go. Amp cabinet. I'm gonna do like a lead, a little bit more treble, presence up, high gain. We're gonna need the, where's my gate? I need to come up with like a gate specifically for this stuff. There we go. We want a 4x12. And we're going to use that. Let's see here. I think it's on our glue compressor. Guitar lead solo. Try it, and we're gonna add some reverb and just some standard delay. We can add like other crazy effects later if we want, but this will be pretty good. I'm not used to playing sweeps on like this like huge neck. We'll try it out though. It's an idea. Try. No, that's not. That's now we're starting to get out of the key because we're in kind of a we're in that kind of B minor sound. Try it about right there. Whatever you're doing. So anyway, little, you know, it's kind of fun to just goof around with this kind of stuff. I probably wouldn't keep like any of the solo stuff, but it gives you maybe some melodic ideas. And actually, you can play solos on this guitar, and it's pretty good. It's not the most comfortable lead guitar experience ever. Like, I haven't set it up really good. But I'd be tempted to just get a different guitar and play solo with a different guitar. That's in D standard or something. Like we're technically in an A minor area. So anyway, yeah, here, check this out. let's try this instead. Play a solo in the Park of Life. Get the Ferrari out. What are some good doom metal bands to listen to? I'll tell you my favorites. Typo Negative is often not considered a doom metal band, but they're one of my favorites. Sleep, Candlemass, Black Sabbath. Again, some people debate whether Black Sabbath is a metal band, but turn that threshold down quite a bit here. This thing feels so small and like nimble. All right, let's try it out. This is like way low output compared to the other guitar. Put the let's put the compressor over here. That's better. I'm slightly out of tune with this, so let's actually check that out. I didn't bother to tune. Yeah, that's why. That ought to sound a little better. Let's try that again. That was bad playing, but it's in tune this time. Anyway, fun to goof around with. I'd probably come up with some more riffs that would go along with this. Anyway, that's a good little start for some Doom here. Maybe we come up with another section right here. There's some new riffs, and not worry about the guitar stuff, or come up with some lyrics. I don't know, what time is it? Oh, we got about 6 more minutes left. Let's come up with section 2. Section 2. Let's do something different and weird. So. Let's see, we're in kind of a B area. Something else here. Maybe we'll do like a clean. We'll do something clean here. I don't know. Not sure what to do here. Use the Hello Kitty guitar. I gotta set that up. Been in the process of like resetting up all my guitars here. So let's do a clean channel. We'll do something clean here. Auto. Let's use this blues. I'm getting some noise through this interface. I'm not sure what it is. Like a hiss. Let's take a look at this. See what's going on here. It's pretty low, even though I can hear it. It's still like negative 90 dB. So that's pretty quiet. That's pretty darn quiet, but I can hear it. I can hear this. Just a really slight hiss. Have to like clean up my recording chain a little bit. Maybe just it might be the cable. You know. Get a different cable going here. That cabinet. Now ooh, we need to tune that, don't we? Tune up real quick. Tuning's all over the place, but this is just for fun, so I'm not that concerned with it. Let's see. It's about as low as I can sing. Is the D, G, below the bass clef staff. D, I could probably do C. G. No, I can't do C today. I met some guys who can sing down to that A. Do some. No, not any major. C major. That's a cool sound. You shouldn't really do C. You should do C sharp. But I don't like C sharp diminished, so I'm going to do C major. A little bit of that flamenco sound. That Phrygian. Then we want to go down to do something at A. this is in the key of B minor, but I don't like it, so. Maybe. Oh, that sounds cool. I kind of like this. Maybe just stick on that chord. Let's try it. Let's record something. Kind of want it to go somewhere though. Yeah, we'll try this one riff. Give it some space. Let's try it again. I'm just going to start right there. I don't know. It has a good. It needs to go somewhere, but I don't know where it needs to go right now. Anyway, let's pull some. I'll record that again. Let's pull some drums out over here. Yeah, all right, let's try it again. 1, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. That's a good little riff, and then we can do some stuff on top of that. Let's do something else on top of that. We'll duplicate that track and just delete that, and we'll come up with something cool up here. keyboard on this one. Go. Now we got a 2 little part song here. Oh, 2 little part song. Sounds cool, I think. I'm going to save it. And let's listen to the... I'm actually going to move all this stuff back. And then we can hear a transition. And I probably would actually record a different drum part for right here. So I'm going to slide these back like this. And I'm gonna come in right here and record a different drum part. I'm gonna record a different hi-hat part to start. Record a different drum part. Yeah, let's do something like that. Now we got 2 parts here. Yeah, I think that might be a robot. It's like these questions are totally random. Do you own this? You know? Jailbreak opening rhythm burst. I don't know it. Yeah, these are just like some random questions that a bot would ask. It's rather funny. Listen to the whole thing. Let's listen to the whole thing. Yeah, it's a good little break. Section 2 break. We need some bass. Kind of interesting. Anyway, that's some fun music making. Birds are... I had a bird run in the window a second ago, which is funny. All right. That's enough of this stuff for today. Sounds cool though. We need some bass. We need some bass. Maybe I'll just add a bass track real quick. Maybe we'll add a bass track. We can actually just add like a bass track with. I don't think I have a bass tuned up correctly. I might drop one of my basses down. Put a 5-string down into like low A, so. Anyway, we'll skip that. I think we're out of time for today. But thanks for hanging out with me. Newest book, Demon X Machina. Let me link that. That's not it. Where is it? Boom. You can get it for free. And then, yes. Music. If you want to get the last couple albums, it's over at zulonline.bandcamp.com. Or you can just go to zulonline.com and it will redirect you. Kind of realize like having a separate website just doesn't really do much. It's better to just do it all through Bandcamp. It's like, why have a separate website when you can do MySpace? That's how it was like 15 years ago. Like bands just started having MySpace pages instead. But anyway, that stuff is not metal though. It's just, I don't know. It's eclectic ambient rock. I guess the last thing I forgot to mention, I set up this Telecaster. So if you want to hear what that sounds like, it's different. So I finally got this guy set up here, and it's cool. Put some Fishman Fluence pickups in it because I managed to get those on sale, so they were slightly less expensive than they otherwise would be. But let's hear it with some clean tone. You charge this one up with a USB cable. It's wild. I'm gonna take the string tree off this guitar. I don't know why I left that string tree on there. That thing's awful. That's what I'm hearing. The F. This is tuned a whole step down, but you get. These are very cool. I'll do a review on these. They're active pickups, low noise. I can see on my Spectrum the noise is. Oh, I didn't have this on. It was just me the whole time. That's stupid. I wanted you to see the DAW. I apologize for that. I wasn't paying attention. Does Helga make an appearance in recent books? She's in the next one, Leper King, on her quest to restore her husband's memory. He loses his memory, so they're on a quest to find some magic to restore it, and then they're kind of deuteragonists of the story. It's very interesting. Where is it? Right. Is this on? There we go. We can actually do Now, surprisingly, for high gain, a Telecaster sounds really good. You would be very surprised. Especially if you're playing a lot of thirds. If you like that first Winter Sun album, it has a lot of Telecaster on it, believe it or not. Yeah, this is a cool pickup set. It has this weird little button that makes it change. Like this sounds like a 52. I had a 52 reissue, and it sounded like this. And then you press this button, and then it sounds like a hot rodded 70s. 60s Telecaster. Very cool sound. Put it on a clean channel, and you can really hear that. Turn it off. It's a classic. You can get some really cool effects with this too, with the tone. It has like an active tone control. You can get almost like wah effects because of this active tone control. I just popped the knob off because I went too fast. I guess I got to tighten that little screw down. These are like the actual Fender. Everything on here is like Fender original except the pickups now. One thing I like about active pickups is the volume knob actually does volume instead of like dialing off the high end for a little bit and then doing volume. Anyway, I'll do a review on those. I think they're great. I think they're definitely worth it if you want Telecaster tones. I was thinking about dropping EMGs in here in this guitar, but I ended up not. I ended up going with Fishman Fluence because I got a deal on them. So, but one little thing is it doesn't want to play nice with some of my cables. That's the one downside. You can even get a jazz tone out of it. All the Telecaster sound, but none of the noise. None of the noisiness of... Single coils tend to be really clear with high gain, by the way, guys. And the reason is because they just have less mids, so they sound good. Now get a nickel harp, but those are cool. I've seen some cool videos of a guy playing nickel harpa. They're interesting instruments. All right, I think that's it for today, guys. I think I'm out. I'll see you all next time. Have a great, great day. Peace. Yeah, some people like this song.